I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the first ever episode of FLEXpectations. This will be SecondsOut's weekly look ahead to the action coming at the weekend. It will come out every Thursday at 4:30 PM, so try not to miss it. Although last week we had a huge fight, pay-per-view fight in Tony Bellew, Alexander Usyk in Manchester, the quantity this weekend far outweighs what went on last week, and also there's some quality too, so let's dig right in. Friday night it all kicks off, or early hours of Saturday morning if you happen to be in the UK, which I guess a lot of you are. We've got Maurice Hooker defending his WBO super lightweight title against Alex Saucedo in Oklahoma, Saucedo's home state. A lot of things going against Hooker, apparently, anyway, going into this fight. Saucedo's the hometown guy. He's backed by a top rank who won the purse bids for this mandatory defence. That's on ESPN over there. That can be seen in Box Nation in the UK from 3:30 AM on the early hours of Saturday morning, Friday night. Tough mandatory defence for Hooker, who came over here and upset Terry Flanagan to win the vacant title back in June. Looked good that night. Rangy, stylist, tall, able to offset Flanagan's aggression that night and Flanagan's work rate. Can he do the same against a fellow unbeaten in Saucedo, who's trained by a renowned coach in Abel Sanchez in California? Big puncher, aggressive, cunning as he comes forward, but was involved in a grueling, bloody war with Lenny Zapovina to earn this shot back in June. Looked a bit vulnerable in that fight. You know, all his impressive qualities came out, but there were certain things that made you worry about him against a higher level of opposition. Hooker's certainly that. He might not have a massive punch, but he was able to counter effectively against Flanagan. He's got those long arms. He likes to throw hooks as his opponents come in. So it's going to be an interesting mesh of styles there in Oklahoma. Saucedo obviously will be backed by a big vociferous crowd. Will that be enough to get the job done? He's actually, surprisingly for me, a favourite with the bookmakers. I think the best bet of the weekend, and I'm sure I'll regret this if you all lose money, so don't just take my word for it, do your own research. I think the best bet is Hooker to win on points, as he did against Flanagan. I think that's around, at the moment, that's around 11-4 with most bookmakers. I think Sporting Bet may have the best price as I talk now, but that could change. So get onto Odds Checker or wherever aggregator you like to use and just have a look at that. But I think that's I'm not necessarily picking Hooker to win. I think if I was forced to make a decision, I would go with Hooker. I don't know if he's got the punch to stop Saucedo, who's going to be really up for it in front of a home crowd on a big top-ranked show on ESPN, and obviously here on Box Nation. But I think those odds, that's where the value is. The value is certainly with Hooker. Moving on to Saturday, there's loads of action going on Saturday. Let's start in Bilbao, why not? Kerman Lejarraga, who of course beat Bradley Skeet, bludgeoned him to defeat, unfortunately for Skeet, in 2 rounds back in Bilbao in April, I think it was. He's defending, he's fought once since, but he's defending against Frankie Gavin, again in Bilbao, this Saturday night. It's an interesting one. It's hard to make a case for Gavin, unfortunately. He's only had a few marking time wins since he lost to Sam Eggington a little while ago. And he's going in against a champion who's young, strong, powerful, backed by a home crowd and in some real dangerous form. Gavin's obviously really good technically, great amateur, world amateur champion. Really impressive back then. He's also won the British and Commonwealth titles as a pro. So we can't completely discount him, but his form in recent years hasn't been great. And he always seems to be outsized when he gets to this sort of level. You know, Sam Eggington, Kell Brook, even against Leonard Bundu, which was a very close fight for the European title. The extra strength and size and maybe a little determination as well of Bundu served to prove the difference in what was a tight decision. Very difficult for Gavin. You know, it's been said for years by me and by many other observers that he should really drop down on a permanent basis to 140 pounds to super lightweight, where he'd have a much greater success. He might have left it too late to do that now anyway, but he's never seemed particularly inclined to do so. So we'll have to wait and see how he gets on against Lejarraga. But the value, again, betting-wise, is to bet on Gavin, but I'm certainly not picking him. I'm really sorry to say. I wish he would drop down to 10 stone. I think he'd be a much trickier proposition. His punches might carry a bit more weight and he might find himself a bit more durable if he could make the weight comfortably and safely. Moving on, we've got 2 big rematches Saturday night taking place in the UK, both well worth watching. One takes place in Manchester, and it's a Steve Wood VIP show, so it can be watched for free online at VIP TV. Big shout out to Steve Wood. He's been plugging away for decades now up in Lancashire and beyond as a manager and a promoter. Great guy, you can only wish him the best. He's got the rematch for British welterweight title eliminator between Liam Taylor and Tyrone Nurse. The first fight a few years ago, I think it was 2015, ended in Nurse's favour, quite a close decision. But crucially, Liam Taylor took that fight on, I think it was 2 days' notice. So he had it all against him and still gave a good, credible performance that impressed people. He's on a winning run of 6, I think, since then. Don't quote me on that, but around that. And Nurse has lost his last 2 fights in a row. One was against Jack Catterall, who's now approaching world level, so no shame there. The other was out in Australia to Jack Brubaker. Looked a controversial decision. Looked like Nurse should have edged that, but obviously fighting on away territory, it's always a risk. So now they come back together in a British welterweight title eliminator. Nurse was obviously British champion a weight below. Really, really interesting fight. 50-50 fight at the Victoria Warehouse, which is Manchester's version of York Hall. We'll be talking about York Hall in a minute. So kind of small, intimate, but always packed to the rafters venue, and it's going to be a great fight. So get on VIP TV. You have to balance it out with whatever other boxing you're watching on Saturday night, but I think you should be pretty clear TV-wise. The other big rematch is at York Hall, Bethnal Green's home of boxing, which, you know, somewhere I grew up just down the road from. My school used to go swimming there. Been there so many times as a boxing pundit and a boxing fan, boxing journalist. Just absolutely love it. You know, they open up the balcony. You've got people hanging over the rafters, not kind of falling off the balcony, we hope, but hanging off the rafters, bringing signs, banners, shouting, crazy. There's a bar, which, you know, what more could you want? Everyone's supporting their favourites, and we've got a match that's worthy of gracing such a venue in the return between Rankin Camacho and Arfan Iqbal for the vacant Commonwealth Cruiserweight title. Now, the first fight, you could make a case, why is there a rematch? Because Iqbal got rid of Camacho in 4 rounds. However, Camacho did have his moments before it happened, and he's since won 3 on the spin at Southern Area title level. He's earned this rematch. He was actually mandatory for the Commonwealth belt, and Lawrence Okoli vacated it, so the rematch was made with Iqbal. Iqbal's only fought once since, hasn't been as active as Camacho, and that was a drab fight with Simon Vallily, where neither boxer in that fight came out of a lot of credit. Iqbal always looks like he could actually make light heavyweight. He's not got the most ripped physique for cruiserweight, but he seems to get the job done. He's got power, he's awkward. Camacho's always in exciting fights. He's aggressive, he switch hits. He's just great to watch. He's got a bit of flair, but he's also very vulnerable, which always makes him a thrill to watch. You never know whether he's about to knock his opponent out or get knocked out himself. So if you get the chance, if there's still tickets left, get onto Goodwin Promotions. Big shout out to them, Steve Goodwin, Kevin Campion, bringing great matches to East London yet again. Get onto them. There's another big title fight on the bill with Ryan Walker. Just get in, if you can, get a ticket, go and watch from ringside or from the balcony even, which is, as I've said, dangerous but great. No, it's not dangerous at all, I'm just kidding. Don't sue me, you'll call. You'll have a great time. So they're the 2 big rematches taking place on UK soil. And then if you're willing to stay up for a second consecutive night to the early hours, having watched the Oklahoma show on Box Nation, Sky Sports, I think it's Sky Sports Action and Sky Sports Main Event from 2 AM, early hours of Sunday morning, Saturday night. They've got a Matchroom USA show from Kansas. We are in Kansas, Dorothy, to kind of quote a phrase. Although Jarrell Miller and Brandon Rios are in the headline attractions on that show, the one that British fans want to keep an eye out for is Scottish middleweight, female middleweight, Hannah Rankin, who's taken a huge step up in class, and I mean huge step up in class, to fight Claressa Shields, who may be the best and certainly the most dangerous female fighter on the planet right now, with due respect to Katie Taylor. Claressa Shields is dangerous for anyone from between super welterweight and super middleweight. Olympic gold medalist twice over. Was it twice over? Maybe once actually at London Olympics. I have to check my facts on that one. I haven't got notes in front of me like some. But Claressa Shields was supposed to be fighting Christina Hammer in what would have been her biggest test so far as a pro. She pulled out around a month ago. Hannah Rankin, who'd recently lost for a world title against Alicia Napoleon up at super middle, stepped in at short notice bravely. She wants to further her career. Commonwealth champion, WBC silver champion, Rankin's early in her career, but still, you know, an accomplished fighter, wants to improve herself. You can only admire that. She goes into the Shields fight as a huge underdog, huge again, yeah, I love that word. But she goes in as a huge underdog, massive underdog against Claressa Shields. But it should be a good fight for however long it lasts. And I think Rankin will only rise in esteem based on this fight. I think her profile gets bigger as it's on Sky Sports, on DAZN USA also. So we'll get to see that. And Also, you can see Jarrell Miller, Brandon Rios in what should be an entertaining fight against Ramon Alvarez, brother of Saul Canelo Alvarez. And Jarrell Miller gets a decent test at heavyweight as he waits for a world title shot of his own. So tune into all those. Remember, my suggested bet, if you like, of the weekend is Hooker to win by decision, which almost certainly means he's going to get iced in a round by Saucedo, but it's not my fault. You know, gamble sensibly, when the fun stops, stop, and all that. And I hope, talking of fun, I hope you've enjoyed this, the first episode of FLEXpectations, our new weekly preview blog. Tune back in Thursday, 4:30 p.m, where we'll have the next edition. Or for a review of the weekend's action, you've got our weekly review show on a Monday at 4:30 p.m. So I hope you tune into that too. Thank you very much. Oh, and leave your comments at the bottom. We didn't get enough comments the first time on Monday. Just give us your comments. What fight are you most looking forward to this weekend? What's your best bet of the weekend? What upsets are you predicting? And take it from there. Thanks very much.